Well, transitional justice has been a means of trying to get back after a big debacle.
So, according to the constitutions of Sri Lanka, there should be equal justice and fundamental rights should be meted out to all.
I don't think we can do reconciliation anytime.
ICCPR is not correctly applied, or it means it doesn't. The government is not giving its true spirit to that ICCPR.
We hear the voices of the victims. We look at past initiatives, things some of which has worked, but many of which has failed the way.
Transitional justice has been a means of trying to get back after a big debacle, something like a war, and they used to have these 4 pillars, but they used to call truth and reparation, institution, and punitive actions. So basically those were like means what they said might get you back on your feet after a thing like a war, and I think it initiated more from South Africa, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if you talk about the transitional justice, that we have to think in terms of Sri Lankan's situations. That Sri Lanka is a country where different communities are living and multi-languages are spoken, and people do expect that they have to be treated equally in a country where all people are living here. So, according to the constitutions of Sri Lanka, there should be equal justice and fundamental rights should be meted out to all without any distinctions. For example, then when we talk about the Eastern Province, there are communities, the Tamils, Muslims, Christians are living here, and they have common issues, general issues like land issues are there, and their rights are not covered, and whenever they seek justice, they have to have their due right from the dispensation of justice. So when it is denied to a certain community, then the transitional justice is denied. So we have to see the justice is meted out. It should be transparent. So when we now, for example, since I belong to a Muslim community, so Muslim people do have land issues in the Eastern Province. So whenever the land is distributed among the people, the authorities, the officers and authorities should see that land is distributed according to the proportions of the populations. So that is what we expect. There should be an independent justice commissions where justice should be meted out to all without discriminations. So that is what I feel, that transitional justice should be introduced in Sri Lanka in terms of the modern laws. Like, for example, the government has ratified the International Civil Convention of Civil and Political International Convention of Civil and Political Rights. So which has a lot of provisions where justice could be given for the people, but unfortunately this ICCPR is not correctly applied, or it means it doesn't. The government is not giving its true spirit to that ICCPR. So that when government has ratified a law, that's to be implemented. Then we can expect that the people of different communities can can get their due expectations from the law. So that is what I feel that transitional justice should be introduced to Sri Lanka in a way that could be enjoyed by all the people.
So, speaking about transitional justice, is it important in a country like ours? And if so, what is the importance that is there?
Well, it's too important for a country like ours, and I think we have not gone that way. Unfortunately, soon after the war, when a lot of assistance came, everyone started saying we don't need software, we need hardware only, building bridges and that and this. It never worked. So we are now, if we say we closed in 89, we are probably about 14 years hence. And we are still nearly the day after finishing the war. We are still in the same type of battle, one way or the other. So I don't think we have handled the transitional justice very well. But if you are talking about the institution, we have not done it well. We have had various institutions, but everyone has had different problem at different times, and then we create new institutions. So I don't think we have done institutions well. And then if you are talking about truth, it's the main thing which no one wants to talk about. But even now, people who are there, because I was also in charge of the refugee camp at Bantaramule, so I still follow with those families, 158 families where people were lost. They want the truth. And reparation, when they talk about, we don't know what can be given, right? But still, we are talking about reparation. We have been suggesting that at least one job for a family, because reparation in terms of money, I don't know what we can do. But truth is something which everyone wanted. But truth is something government does not want to disclose. So I'm saying truth is something which no one really wants to comprehend with. And if you can't comprehend with the truth, I don't think we can do reconciliation any time. Because everyone says, forget about everything, we'll start a new life. I don't think it's that easy for a human. Just forget about everything and start a new life. Accept it and start a new life is very different. But forget about it. that's what is happening. No one wants to talk about what happened in 83. No one wants to talk about what happened in 90. No one wants to talk about the bombing which happened recently. No one wants to even talk about the economic crisis. No one wants to say how we fell down. So I think we have to accept the past, understand the problems of the past, and then go out of it. Now, transitional justice just gives the same thing. Accept the truth. This is a way out. Okay, rehabilitation, reparation, whatever you want to talk about it, and then grow out of it. Basically, that's what it's giving. It's giving it in 4 different terms, but basically accept and then come out of it. And they are giving you ways. And because if you can't accept, you will never come out.
Exactly.
It's somewhere back there, it's there, and that's how I look at it. I still think government does not deal directly, in the sense, what shall I say, genuinely. In every issue what I see everyone playing up and down. So this is how, every time they divide, break and divide, now when it comes to a crux, then they suddenly bring religion in. Then otherwise they bring a language in.
So transitional justice is an area that looks at what has happened in the past, trying to find ways of addressing truth and justice and provide remedies for the victims, but it also has a component which looks to the future in terms of preventing the non-recurrence of violence. So it's a unique area in that it has both a past aspect as well as a future. Now in Sri Lanka, transitional justice has been dealt with for some time. Over the years, over the decades, due to the calls and the demands of the victim communities across Sri Lanka, we have seen numerous state initiatives, from investigations to commissions of inquiry to attempts at justice as well. But all of this shows that the challenges that remain with transitional justice in Sri Lanka, due to various issues from delays to political interference to threats to evidence tampering, justice and the truth has eluded victims. So their demands in search of their missing loved ones, of enforced disappearances, of just getting justice for particular violations remains the case even today. So 14 years after the end of the war and 75 years after Sri Lanka obtained independence, Sri Lankan citizens face numerous challenges. But transitional justice, if fully implemented, can address some of these things. So if the government is genuinely interested in giving answers to the victims, in getting justice for those emblematic cases, and ensuring there is remedy but also non-recurrence of violence, there are particular things that can be done. These things the government of Sri Lanka committed to at the UN Human Rights Council in 2015 through Resolution 30/1. Now there's been a lot of debate around the commitments made, but one thing that needs to be remembered is people look to the UN Human Rights Council when efforts in getting these answers, getting justice, getting remedy in Sri Lanka had failed over the decades, over the years. So the demands of the victims still persist. Unfortunately, due to the numerous failures, they have looked internationally because domestic initiatives have failed them. So I think when we look at transitional justice, it's very important to understand that we listen to the people in Sri Lanka, we hear the voices of the victims, we look at past initiatives, things some of which has worked, but many of which has failed the victims, and try to get a roadmap on transitional justice going in Sri Lanka. Now, if there is no genuine effort to address the demands of the victims, if there is no effort to address the root causes of the conflict, we are likely to see cycles of violence continue to haunt Sri Lanka. So it's extremely important that citizens of Sri Lanka, different stakeholders in Sri Lanka, demand from the government that they at least commit to the most basic of steps, that they treat all citizens equally and with dignity and ensure that every step is taken to provide for truth, for justice, for remedies and the non-recurrence of violence.